is this like an annual gala that you have?
Yeah, every year.
Always in here now?
As far as I know, yes. I've been here only once before.
Yes.
So let me show you, and then you can come back and actually videotape it.
Oh,
if you want to know exactly.
Okay.
I'll just direct you to where it is. You want to come on?
Because we always want to.
Good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, here's never been here.
How are you? Good to be able to my French tutor. Oh, oui, hein? Yes, but I've been negligent. Et, est-ce qu'il only to get
Il est étudiant, mais il a besoin de faire un petit peu plus de travail. Il a besoin de parler avec vous.
T'as besoin de... He needs to spend a week or two in Quebec.
Voilà, il parlait une semaine avec vous. Comment ça s'appelle?
La même chose.
Il faudrait que vous ayez le temps d'aller voir l'exposition. C'est une... Okay.
I would like you to meet these people. They are great.
Have fun. Have fun. You will get your French one day.
healthy intake going to face.
Yes, thank you. I was just like, I wasn't sure if you're still making fun or if you're...
No, I signed up.
I'm probably ruining your audio right now.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Well, it's nice to see you again. Thank you so much for covering this.
Yeah.
I knew you were coming. You emailed the office, right?
Right. Yes, I did.
Great. I think you were the last one on my list. I wasn't sure if you were here or not. Yeah.
Do you know how long you'll be talking?
You know what? It's about 10 minutes, but whenever he's on his way someplace, he always adds or takes out or changes. So.
Yeah, he's got another event to go to.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So it's always a balancing act, right? Yeah. He's right across the street. Okay, well, if you need anything, let me know, okay? Premier's not doing interviews. We can do that already.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ours are about 7 years old. We've been there for 6, 7 years. Look at his house. We've been there for a year or two before.
I hope you're ready for an exciting evening. Tonight you will hear from prolific speakers including the Premier of Ontario, Dalton McQuinty, Dr. Sheena Iyengar from Columbia University, and you will meet 4 amazing honorees this evening, including Dr. Niranjan Singh Dalla, a distinguished professor from the University of Manitoba, Ms. Susan Strong, senior curator at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, England, Dr. Sheena Iyengar from the Columbia Business School, and last but not least, the Honorable Vim Kocher, the president and founder of the Vilma Group of Companies and the first Indo-Canadian appointed to the Senate of Canada. After a decadent and delicious... After a decadent and delicious dinner, we will dance the night away to the eclectic sounds of Black Mahal and DJ NRK. My name is Zorawar Dhaliwal, and I will be your host for the evening. Evening's running smoothly and on time. If the caterers are running behind schedule, speed them up. And if the speakers are running late, I have to tackle you off stage, I'm sorry. That's how Puneet and Ranjit roll on co-chairs. I want to thank Puneet, Ranjit, the entire volunteer committee, and the Sikh Centennial Board for their dedication year on year to creating a wonderful and amazing event. I hope you are amazed by the brilliant speakers tonight. And your taste buds savor the fine cuisine, you're entertained by the entertainment, and we are able to bungle the night away. So who's this Zorawar Dhaliwal they've put in front of you? Well, professionally, I'm the CEO of an NGO called Community Lab in New York. Work with the Earth Institute at Columbia University on international development and foreign direct investment. Previously, I lived in Toronto for 4 years, where I had the opportunity to work on the Centennial Foundation Gala in 2006. Actually, the Centennial Foundation Gala has a place in my heart because I had an opportunity to meet my wife, Dejpreet, during the gala. The Sikh Centennial Gala is the highlight for many Sikhs in the community, in Toronto community here. Each year, the Sikh Centennial Gala seeks to highlight and honor accomplishments of dynamic and successful individuals who inspire and educate while giving back to the community, serving as role models and positive ambassadors of the Sikh values. But don't take my word for it. Please, you can watch the video on the Centennial Foundation that will explain it all to you. like to begin with our first speaker. Our first speaker is a man who needs no introduction. As the 24th Premier of Ontario, Dalton McQuinty has served residents of Ontario and Canada for over 20 years. Premier McQuinty was first elected into Ontario legislature in 1990 and he became the leader of the Liberal Party in 1996 and led this party to a majority government in 2003 and again in 2007. In his 20 years of political leadership, Dalton McQuinty has been behind important decisions that have shaped Canadian politics and is currently focused on strengthening the Ontario healthcare and education systems. Born on July 19, 1955, Premier McQuinty was raised in Ottawa and was one of 10 children. He credits his parents and his teaching him the values and ethics that guide him as a Premier. I personally think Premier McQuinty's political savvy comes from the fact he's one of 9 children. I have one brother and one sister, and I know how difficult it is. I'd like to also take this opportunity to recognize the other ministers in the room, with the Honourable Harinder Thakur, the Minister of Government, the Honourable Eric Hoskin, the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, David Zimmer, Mr. David Zimmer, the MPP of Willowdale, Dr. Kuldeep Kalar, the MPP of Brimley, and the Mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford. Without further ado, I'd like to please welcome Premier Dalton McQuinty on the stage.
To our special honorees, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you, Zora, for that kind introduction and for serving as your MC this evening. I would also like to thank my colleagues, Harinder Thakur, Dr. Eric Hoskins, Dr. Kuldeep Kalar, and David Zimmer for joining us tonight. In 2007, Harinder and Kuldeep were with me when we had the awe-inspiring and humbling experience of visiting the Golden Temple in the Punjab. I was the first Ontario Premier to have that honor, and it remains one of the highlights of my time in office. I want to thank you all for welcoming me here tonight. I'm honored to join with you in celebrating, as you have since 1997, the centennial of Sikh settlement in Canada. In particular tonight, we honor the achievements of 4 remarkable individuals who exemplify the principles of Sikhism. The Honourable Vim Kochhar, the first person of Indo-Canadian heritage to be named to the Canadian Senate. Dr. Narbajan Dalla, whose research into cardiovascular diseases is helping improve people's health in Canada and indeed around the world. Susan Strong, curator and world-renowned authority on the decorative arts and jewelry of the courts in India. Susan was also key in bringing the exhibition Arts of the Sikh Kingdoms from the Victoria and Albert Museum in London to this very museum in 2000. I congratulate the Sikh community for raising well over $1 million to fund that exhibition. And our 4th honoree is Sheena Iyengar, a distinguished professor and researcher with the Columbia Business School and also our keynote speaker this evening. Congratulations to our 4 distinguished guests on being honored tonight for all that you have accomplished. And thank you for all that you accomplished, ladies and gentlemen, and contributed. Whether or not we are Sikh, each of us here tonight shares the deepest belief in the positive human qualities that are at the core of Sikhism. They are truth, compassion, contentment, humility, and love. When we think of all those who have come before us, all they have achieved, we see that it is those qualities that have guided them. Whether it was the first Sikhs to venture out and start new lives in a young country so far from their homeland more than a century ago, or whether it was our own parents, mothers and fathers who worked incredibly hard, made sacrifices for us, to give us all that we had. They were driven by their belief in truth, compassion, contentment, humility, and love. I think of my own parents. My father taught English because that was his passion, but he taught night classes and summer school because he loved his children. My mother enjoyed working as a nurse because of her compassion, But she kept going for 25 years after we were all born because he wanted her children to know contentment. As you heard, I come from a family of 10 brothers and sisters, and there's a lesson that my father taught all of us. My father was a big man, 6'4", 240 pounds, and a smart guy. He had his PhD in English literature. 5 kids would be sitting on the bench on this side of the table, the other 5 sitting on the bench on this side of the table. My father would look at all of us and say, kids, remember something. Nobody here is as smart as all of us. Nobody here is as strong as all of us. I've come to see time and again just how profound and humbling the truth that is. You see, you and I can't build a hospital or a school on our own. We can't secure a good quality of life on our own. We can only do it by working together. This community has always been a vital part to our shared success in Ontario. As you have prospered, we all have prospered. As you have grown, we all have grown. I want to thank you for all that you do every day to embrace the promise that is Ontario, for seeing opportunity and then seizing that opportunity. Be it in medicine, banking, private business, teaching, politics, to name just a few of the professions where Sikh men and women excel. You have shown us that there are no limits to the ways in which we can serve and achieve. It is in that spirit that we have made so much progress together. In our schools with higher test scores and higher graduation rates, in healthcare with lower wait times, and more than 1 million Ontarians who now have a family doctor. Today, more than ever, we must continue to serve and achieve. The task has fallen to us to build the next Ontario, our children's Ontario, just as our parents built our Ontario. You know, it's worth imagining how the Ontario of today would look to those Sikh families who first came to Canada more than a century ago. So much would be different. Technology, fashion, music. But so much will be instantly recognizable. Our cultural traditions, our languages, above all else, our beliefs, those essential values that unite us as Ontarians and define us as human beings. Tonight we celebrate those beliefs and what they make it possible for us to do, which is to achieve great things with each other, for each other. Thank you for all that you are doing to build up our province. Thank you for sharing with yourselves. Thank you for honoring others. Because of all that you do, together, we are ensuring that Ontario remains what it has always been and always will be, the greatest province and the best country in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Premier McQuinty. Coming from a country where the political capital bears a striking resemblance to a frat house, and the mainstream media now has turned into more entertainment than news, it's refreshing to hear a politician dedicated to the issues. Now we'd like to introduce our keynote, Dr. Sheena Iyengar, the inaugural St. Lee Professor of Business at the Columbia Business School and the Research Director for the Jerome A. Shazan Institute of International Business. Even though Dr. Iyengar and I share a college campus at Columbia, it was only recently that I came across her work on choice through her TED Talk video. Dr. Iyengar has been blazing new trails in the academic area of choice since her early work at Stanford during her graduate degree, while doing the JAM study, and most recently, her new book, The Art of Choosing. She is fast becoming the Malcolm Gladwell of choice. But Dr. Iyengar wasn't always a highfalutin academic, author, turned celebrity. Her roots are very similar to our own. She was born to an immigrant family here in Toronto, grew up in Queens, Flushing, Queens, New York, and her father had helped put together the first Good Life. Dr. Iyengar's first introduction to choice was growing up in a bicultural environment, observing the tenets of Sikhism, while her family partaking in American culture as well. This is something many of us in this room can connect with, the dichotomy of those two realities. Dr. Iyengar's presence is a unique honor this evening. It's the first time that I can recall our keynote is also an honoree. So without further ado, I'd like to present the video of Dr. Iyengar and call her to the stage, please.
Dr. Sheena Iyengar is the inaugural ST Lee Professor of Business at Columbia Business School and Research Director at the Jerome H. Hazen Institute of International Business. Dr. Iyengar was born to Sikh parents in Toronto before moving to New York. Despite losing her sight to a genetic condition, Dr. Iyengar has achieved astounding success. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Economics, a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and a PhD in Social Psychology from Stanford University. Dr. Iyengar is a world-renowned expert on choice. Her recent book, The Art of Choosing, explores how we make choices and why they're so powerful. Her other research and teaching interests include globalization and entrepreneurial creativity. Dr. Iyengar's work has been featured in premier academic journals across economics, psychology, marketing, and management. Her dissertation was awarded the prestigious Best Dissertation Award from the Society of Experimental Social Psychology. She also received the Presidential Early Career Award for Social Scientists for her research on cultural differences in decision-making. Her work is commonly featured in popular media, including Fortune magazine, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and the Time magazine. Dr. Sheena Iyengar.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for such a wonderful welcome here in Toronto. You know, I was born in Toronto. I was born here in November 1969. I can't believe I just gave away my date of my birth. You're not supposed to do that. I came 1 month early in the midst of a giant blizzard, I'm told. My father hadn't yet made it to Canada. He was still trying to make his way over from India to Canada to join my mother. I still wonder about that night when I was born. What it must have been like for my mom. She was all alone in this hospital with me in her arms and probably staring out the window watching those snowflakes whirling around. Things that she probably wasn't accustomed to seeing when she was back in India. Unbeknownst to her, at that moment, the surprise arrival, the low visibility of the night, the absence of my father, that would all prove to be important of many things to come. You know, if you think about it, at that moment, every single aspect of my life was already known. All you had to do was read it in the stars or in the stones. Everything had already been predetermined, you might say, by the hand of God or by some other unnamable force. The only thing I had to do now is confirm the text. That's one version of the story of my life. Now I'd like to tell you another. It's a jack-in-the-box life, you know. We open it up carefully, one parcel at a time. But sometimes things just spring up and out. And so I decided to spring out about 1 month early. And my mother was there in Toronto. She, who had never intended to leave India, was now in this place, watching snowflakes flying around. And like those snowflakes, she was also carried away from Toronto to New York and then New Jersey. Everywhere my parents went, they took their Sikh culture with them. If there wasn't a Gurdwara already around, they decided to help found one. I used to go to Gurdwara every Friday night, Saturday night, most of Sunday, followed the 5Ks. In fact, I even used to wear my underwear while I took a shower. But life has this way of poking holes in your plans, you know. When I was 3, my parents began to wonder. I kept having to shout, "Watch out," everywhere I would go. Surely even a klutz would notice a parking meter. This vision specialist ended up solving the mystery, and I was diagnosed with a rare form of retinitis pigmentosa. And my parents were told that I would probably go blind by the time I was in high school. You know, you might say that such negative events make one resilient, or you might say that it's the resilient to which such things happen. Regardless, even the resilient can have the wind completely knocked out of them. When I was 13, I woke up one morning, I was kind of miffed at my dad. Like most kids are when they're teenagers. My father woke up that morning with a bit of leg pain, breathing troubles. My mother made him promise he would go to the doctor that day. Maybe he intended to. By that afternoon, though, he collapsed outside a bar in Manhattan. By the time he actually got to the hospital, he'd already had 3 heart attacks and was gone. This is not to say that our lives are solely shaped by random and unpleasant events. But they do seem to move, for better or for worse, along largely unmapped terrain. How well can we really plan our future when we can only see so far? And the weather changes faster than you can say a surprise. But wait, I have another story for you. And this time I'm going to tell you the story of my life again, but it's the story that every single one of us in this room shares. My parents left India and came to North America in search of a better life for themselves, for their kids. In essence, they were searching for the North American dream. Like many others before them, after them, they brought with them a culture. They created a country within a country. But as someone who grew up in this part of the world, I think I understood that dream almost better than they did. I understood that at the center of that dream, what shines so bright that even I, as a blind person, could see it, was choice. You know, any one of us, if we're asked, how did you go from here to there? What is the story of your life? Any of us could tell the story of our lives in terms of fate, chance, or choice. In fact, you could tell the story of your life in all 3 ways. And each time you tell the story, you would uncover some new truth about yourself and your life. And I think there's something special when you tell the story of your life in terms of choice. Because when you tell the story of your life in terms of choice, it gives meaning to everything you say and do. Ultimately, choice is the only one of these forces that puts control in your hands. It's the only thing that enables you to go from who you are today to who you want to be tomorrow. Regardless of what fate and chance may have in store for you, you are ultimately evaluated by the choices that you make. But for God's sake, how do you make these choices? You know, as the words would say, it's a bloody difficult process. Well, let me tell you, it's even more difficult when you're a Sikh American. Being a Sikh American, not only do you have to keep track of 2 cultures, 2 languages, and in my case, it wasn't just Punjabi, it was some polluted form of Hindi, there was some mix of Punjabi and Hindi. Then on the other hand, you have English. But you have this other layer that's thrust upon you. You're given 2 entirely different ways of life. Languages, you might say, of choice. You know, as a Sikh, you follow the 5 Ks, you learn that you need to have your duties, understand that choice has consequences. You have to respect your parents, respect your elders, respect your community, respect the wishes of God. But understand that when you make a choice, you have to consider the ramifications for other people. Don't be so selfish. Don't embarrass people. Don't shame people. Of course, your parents, your aunties and uncles, they all had an arranged marriage. That's normal. And of course, a good child marries within the community. And of course, when you choose a career, it should be done so with the consultation of your parents. It's a good thing to do. And the ideal, of course, is doctor or engineer. As a Sikh, what you learn limitations to choice. And with choice comes responsibilities. And of course there's the American approach. You mean to tell me you can't cut your hair? Oh my God, that sounds so unfair. Oh, and your parents, they met each other for the first time on their wedding night? That's horrific. I would die if that would happen to me. As far as I can tell, my parents didn't quite look on the verge of death. You know, as an American, you're supposed to know who you are. Everything about you is supposed to be completely custom-made. You're supposed to figure out who you want to be, how you're going to dress, what you're going to grow up to be, and absolutely choose your spouse. So as an American, choice means possibilities, opportunities. It's an exercise in making yourself. So how am I supposed to choose? I've always envied those who were just Sikhs or just Americans. It seems like a much easier lifestyle, you know. If you're a Sikh, you're comfortable in who you are and what your ideas and values are, and you know, yeah, Americans offer some good things, you know, but we get misguided. And then as Americans, it's like, yeah, you know, we respect people from different cultures, and you know, certainly we honor diversity, but you know, our way is the more right way, and other people are, well, that's just interesting. Now, as a Sikh American, gosh, how do you take sides? It's really tough, you know? And then you try to convince the other side of the other side's point of view, and by the way, that's a hopeless exercise. They're trying convincing a Westerner that arranged marriage is actually good, and at best you're like, okay, well, I guess it works for them. Try convincing an Ami that, you know, if they fall in love and that person is not the right kind of person, but, you know, it might actually be great. At max, you might get, it's acceptable, maybe, right? Well, so it's complicated being a Sikh American. How do you decide? How do you make the choice? You're told you're supposed to find the perfect things from Sikhs and the perfect things from Americans and create that ideal combination, but who gets to decide what's the perfect stuff? Well then, add to that the complication of being blind. Now that adds a whole new layer of complexity to this whole idea of having a choice. So when I was in school, I remember our teachers used to tell us that you can grow up and do and be whatever it is that your mind and heart wants you to be. So when my teacher asked and went around the room and said, you know, what do you guys want to be when you grow up? I raised my hand and said, well, I'd like to be a pilot. Yeah, all the other kids had the same reaction. The teacher paused. I don't think she knew what to say. She's like, oh, that's very interesting, child. At some point I realized I needed more than my mind and heart to do this. Well, the question kept coming at me, right? What are you going to do? And, you know, Mom, like, oh my God, who's going to marry her? What's going to happen to her? Oh my God, what's going to happen to her? What were the options? I looked around at them. I spent some time in Spain. In Spain, you know, random people would come up to me and hand me money in my hand, and then suddenly they would expect me to hand them a lottery ticket in return. Apparently in Spain, blind people have the corner on lottery tickets. And when I went to Japan, I spent some time there. Everywhere I went, people would come up to me, take my hands, like random people, put my hands on their back, shoulders, and expect me to do a massage. And I knew nothing about even getting a massage. And then of course in the US, you know, what's the idea? Well, you know, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, it's got to be a musician. So I tried out clarinet for a few years. It didn't quite work out. And then when some people thought, well, okay, she can go to college, well then the choice was obvious what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Lawyer, justice is blind. Well, as I was growing up, I started to develop this awareness of how so many of our hopes, dreams, expectations struggle constantly against our limitations. That was true for all of us. And one of the big challenges we all have in life is in trying to figure out how to overcome those limitations. And that meant that we needed to be able to separate our true limitations from our perceived ones. So here you had a complicated package. blind Sikh American. How does she choose? And I think that I was actually blessed. You know, as a Sikh, the message I learned was that you don't ask the question, what do you want to be? That's a dumb question. As a Sikh, what I learned was that you're supposed to ask, what could you be? What could you be good at? As an American, what I learned was that, God, you don't have to settle for all these meager options. Create your own. I didn't have all the choices that society have. And anytime I wanted to pursue a choice, I had to push past naysayers, doorkeepers. In a way, that made it easier. I knew that anytime I wanted to pursue a choice, I had to be dedicated to it. I could never afford to choose on a whim. So, with my background, doesn't it seem obvious and natural that I would, of course, choose to study choice, given all the issues I had with choice? So I decided to study it for the last 2 decades. And I would say that if there's one theme that cuts across all the various studies I've done, it's that in order to get the most from choice in your life, you need to be choosy about choosing. That comes up in different ways. More choices are not always better. Choice has its limitations. You know, I wrote this book, The Art of Choosing. One of the things you should always think about when you write a book and give it a title is people are going to ask you the deadly question, why did you title it that? And tell me what that means. So people often ask me, so what is the art of choosing? What's the definition of it anyway? And I think that you guys, more than anyone else, will understand when I tell you what the definition is. From Sikhs, what I learned is that choice has its limitations. From Americans, I learned that choice offers you possibilities. If you put those two together, here's what you get. When we are able to balance our hopes, our desires, and appreciation for the possibilities with a clear-eyed assessment of the limitations, that is, I think, when we practice the art of choosing. Thank you very much for listening to me.
I think we so rarely consider the importance of choice in our daily life, but some would argue that all that stands between the confinement and liberation of our minds is choice. With that, we are getting ready to now enter into the dinner portion of the evening. So I'm sure all of you have built up an appetite, so I'm hoping that you'll partake in the delicious food from the host. They've been our excellent caterer for a number of years now in a row. But before doing so, I wanted to comment on how wonderful everyone looks this evening. Everyone has dressed up in their nines and is really looking quite wonderful. Sadly, your tuxedo looks superb. Excellent. The only tip that I received, though, was funny enough, was to picture all of you in your underwear. So I've taken that tip, but you all look wonderful this evening. We will also be selling copies of a special edition of The Arts of the Sikh Kingdom coffee table book. We will start that midway through dinner. We'll make an announcement before that takes place. But you've all received also a copy of this wonderful booklet that you'll find on your seat, which is the exhibit outside. Private collection that was put on the exhibit for this evening. So please thumb through this, and if you get an opportunity, take a look at the wonderful pieces there. So without further ado, again, please enjoy the dinner.